Hi, Lorna here again. I hope everybody's well. I just want to talk about a time when the very first time that I was followed. So I'm going to give you a look at where I'm at. Yeah, beautiful beach. So I was down at a place called Southport with my 4 children. This was in 2004. And we just got back from a swim, and there was a little park area with a bubbler, and next to that was a footpath and then the road, and across the road was a shopping centre called Australia Fair. So my little one was only 4 at the time, and she had sandy feet from the swim, and we were all in our cozies and with towels or sarongs wrapped around us. And I picked her up to rinse her feet off in the bubbler. And as I done that, I looked up and I noticed a guy sitting in a unmarked white van with a long lens camera pointed at us. And I just thought, oh, well, I didn't really think much of it. But then as we walked out of the park gate, so directly where he was parked, there was actually a gate, but we walked to the other gate to cross the road, to the lights, to cross the road to go to the shops. And so I got my eldest daughter, who was 14 at the time, to go on ahead and push the button and wait for us to come out of the gate. And when that happened, he turned his camera around and started zooming his camera in at her. And of course, Mama Bear, me, flares up, and I thought, oh, this guy's a pervert, So I quickly gathered the other 3 children, got to my eldest daughter, and I said, just wait there. Handed over my 4-year-old to her. I said, wait there for me. I'll be back in a minute. And I just sprinted on down to the white van. And I reached in, I actually just leaned in the window because he was sitting in the passenger seat. And so I leaned in the window of the driver's seat and I said, what are you doing? And he just had this utmost fear on his face, and I had simply asked him. I wasn't aggro or anything. And he was mute, and then he quickly says, I'm with the Gold Coast City Council and I'm taking photos of the gate. And I said, no, you're not. You had your camera directed at my daughter, she's out there on the footpath. I said, before he could speak, and I said, plus you're in an unmarked van. If you're at Gold Coast with the council, why are you in an unmarked van? And he just sort of looked stunned at me because I don't think he expected all these barrage of questions, And then he started saying something else, and I said, show me your ID. Why aren't you wearing a uniform if you're with the Gold Coast City Council? And he couldn't answer that, and then I got angry. Mama Bear reared up then, and I actually reached over because he'd set his camera down in the middle console by this stage, and I reached over to grab the camera because I thought, you're not having photos of my children, you weird pervert, So it was, so he's grabbing at it and I'm grabbing at it, and I thought, oh, the children are watching, I don't want to stress them out. They've been through enough already. And so I let it go. And as I walked off, I noted his number plate. Anyway, we gets across the road to Australia Fair, and I went directly to the security. And I gave them his number plate. I told them everything that had happened. I said, I think he's a pervert. He's sitting there taking photos of my children and I. And and they actually looked the number plate up on their computers. And they said to me, he'd pressed in the wrong numbers. I think the last 3 numbers from memory were 356, and he'd put in 365. And then he asked me again. I said, no, 356. And he said, oh, well, I've put in 365, and it's a fleet of cars. And he gave me the name of the place, but by that time he had actually sent another couple of security guards over to talk to the man, but he'd already obviously gone. But that guy, that security officer, did actually say to me on this, as an aside, he said, I think it might have been a PI. So that was the first time, and there was many after that. But yeah, that's the first time I actually caught them out red-handed. So yeah, that's the end. And yeah, God bless everybody. Keep sharing your stories, and you're not alone.